Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to wherever you are or what time zone you happen to be in. My name is Josh Palmer. I'm the head of content for Govinda. Very happy to have you here today, joining us for this Govinda Thought Leadership webinar, 3 Ways to Leverage AI for Your Board. We will just give it a few moments here to reach a quorum, quote unquote, and have a few more people enter the room. Otherwise, my mantra is start on time, end on time. So very excited to have you here and be talking about AI in the boardroom. All right, we'll go ahead and get it underway here. Introducing today's speakers, I've already introduced myself. My name is Josh Palmer. Again, I'm the head of content marketing for Govinda. It's my pleasure to join you here today and just talk a little bit about AI in the boardroom and different use cases that boards and their members can leverage. Very happy to introduce my counterpart, my colleague, Gavin Guest, VP of Product for Govinda. Gavin, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Cool. Gavin's going to walk us through some real world available today use cases for AI in the boardroom. I'm going to set it up with a little bit of table setting on what AI is and how boards should maybe approach this. So I'll go ahead and get started. Couple of housekeeping items. I start every webinar with just a couple of housekeeping items so we're all on the same page. This is a Zoom webinar, so all guests are mute by default. That's just for your sake and ours. However, we do really encourage your feedback. Please share your questions or comments in real time as we're going through these topics. We'd love to really get some good engagement in the chat or the Q&A feature. I'll be manning both of those. And then we'll have a live QA if there's enough questions or comments to support it in the last 10, 15 minutes of today's presentation. So highly encourage you, any question or comment you have about today's topic, very, very happy to try to answer it for you. And then this last piece, we get this question for every webinar we do. Yes, we will send you a on-demand recording, video recording of the webinar that we're doing today. And I'll also send you the slide deck. We'll send that in a follow-up email. Usually sends out about 24 hours after the webinar concludes. So without further ado, just a little bit about AI. This is a topic that's been really popular, especially in the board governance space and the thought leadership webinars I've conducted in the last 12 to 24 months as things like OpenAI and ChatGPT have become to the fore in terms of public consciousness in the last 12 to 24 months. However, it's important to note that just AI as a concept has been around for actually quite a while. Artificial intelligence was actually first coined as a concept in 1956 by a mathematician named John McCarthy. And he was actually following up in the footsteps of Alan Turing's work, if you're familiar with the Turing test, to see if a computer or a computer model could sound or feel authentically human. That's where that name comes from. And not to mention that AI, although OpenAI has certainly blown the lid off of kind of the concept of widespread adoption of artificial intelligence, publicly accessible artificial intelligence. Today, AI is almost everywhere in a lot of the products and experiences you use. If you think about virtual assistants, excuse me, like Siri or Alexa, Netflix famously held a competition to see if they could generate an AI algorithm that could better predict the choices of movies and shows that you wanted to watch. Everybody remembers IBM's Watson. I'm old enough to remember when IBM's Big Blue or Watson participated in Jeopardy. Even in your Roomba, your Internet of Things products, your Roomba, your Ring, those are all using AI and the algorithms they use to detect or predict patterns or create new patterns. And then when we talk about interactions, a lot of the interactions that you have with businesses or services, even small businesses these days, are really founded in AI principles, where it's doing things like predicting the next text. So when you're using an SMS text message on your phone and it predicts the next word you think you'll use, to chatbots on a website, for instance, so you can set up meetings and calendar invites. And then even customer support calls that can listen to and interpret your language in real time and give you the choices of the selection that you wanted. What is kind of the next phase that we've moved into here is generative AI. And the really kind of watershed moment for that was December 23, when OpenAI launched their ChatGPT product to the public. And generative AI is based on large language models, or LLMs, where a AI algorithm has been trained on a model. and it creates new content based on that previously existing content. So it's learned, it's consumed, all the world's information, and it's trying to spit out something new and novel to the question or the prompt that you're asking. And one thing to just note is that, for the here and now, at least, AI is more of a support tool or complementary tool to a lot of people's roles or jobs, but hopefully can never replace them. This may be an AI-generated avatar speaking to you now. Just kidding. Predictions on business impact. This is something that is really interesting. This comes from a McKinsey report and Goldman Sachs and Gartner. AI generative technology could automate half of today's workforce between today's work, not their workforce, between 2030 and 60. And increasingly, we're seeing this impact some more white-collar jobs, rather than blue-collar jobs. AI can help lower operational costs through automation, workflows, predictive analytics, those types of things by 30%, according to McKinsey. 2/3 of all occupations will have some kind of automation or could be impacted by automation. But again, likely more of a support function and a complementary function. I've often heard the phrase, AI is not going to take your job. It's going to be somebody who knows how to use AI to complement or bolster their strengths. That's what's going to replace you, not the computer itself. And in this next slide, you'll see an underscore of this last statement that AI will power 80% of all customer interactions by 2025, according to Gartner. This is just like I said, AI has been around for quite a while. It is in the last 2 decades that we've really seen widespread adoption by businesses, primarily starting in 2018, just prior to the pandemic. A lot more call centers, a lot more chatbots on websites, those types of things, and banking apps, those types of things. And then, as you note here in 23, you really see a watershed moment for generative AI adoption, going from 33 to 65% of all enterprises adopting AI for at least one business function. So just really, if you're listening to the zeitgeist of the moment, it's also impacting business and business operations. From the perspective of a director or a board or board governance, this is just a quick kind of an eye chart. I know it's not the best visual, but NACD puts out a governance trends and outlook report. And if you're unfamiliar, NACD is the National Association of Corporate Directors. They do a lot of certification for independent directors serving on corporate boards and public companies, those types of things. Every year they query about 500 of their members and they ask, what are the most impactful trends that you see in the next 12 months? So this report came out in late 23. And it was really surprising to see advances in artificial intelligence cited as one of the most impactful trends by more than 30%, almost 33% of all corporate directors surveyed. So from my experience, anecdotally, in the webinars that I've run or presented on AI, a lot of the organizations that we've spoken to, AI has not yet become a boardroom level topic. I think it was about half and half. 56% of the audiences we queried had talked about AI as a topic in the boardroom and its impact to the organization. Corporate governance and AI. 64% of boards ranked innovation involving technology among their top 5 board priorities in 2024. I think this really reflects the same information you just saw on that NACD slide. And 43% of private company C-suite executives said increasing use of AI across the org is top leadership priority. Increasingly, advances in technology, obviously, the next step in an advance in technology is embracing and adopting that to remain competitive in the marketplace or competitive amongst your peers. As we've talked to boards and board governance professionals about AI in the boardroom, and specifically the board, its directors using AI for board level tasks, there's some important guardrails here, some considerations. And Gavin, I'm actually moving through these slides a lot faster than I thought I would. So this may be a little bit shorter, or you'll have more time for your portion. Gavin and I talked about this in the pre-meeting call. There's some really important concerns for using AI in the boardroom, and then for a larger organization implementing AI as well. So these are kind of 2 competing priorities, but obviously, if you're using AI in the boardroom, one of the first things you want to make sure you're doing, especially since compliance and regulatory risk are such important topics in the board governance space, you want to know the terms of service or the terms and conditions of the AI tool you're using and review them regularly to ensure that they're up to code with your compliance and your audit committee. Again, that might be somebody that a governance and risk professional might be able to help you with, your in-house counsel, or even kicking that over to the audit committee to make sure that that gets reviewed periodically to make sure the space is changing so quickly. There's so many new startups and new innovations and small companies becoming large companies and large companies changing the way they do business. OpenAI, for example, originating as a nonprofit and then going to a for-profit business model. These T's and C's and these TOS terms change very regularly, very frequently. So if you can kind of put that canary in the coal mine, so to speak, and review those T's and C's to make sure they're not violating any of your privacy or data standards or that your organization's compliance, that would be a really good tip for board governance and board governance professionals. Another tip that we recommend is to, if you're using any kind of AI for board work, please avoid publicly accessible AI models, tools, and capabilities. As I mentioned previously, these AI capabilities are based on large language models, which do a really good job of ingesting huge volumes of data, information, content. And then when somebody queries that with a prompt, it can spit that information out. So if you uploaded, say, a confidential document, which I know is kind of just a very easy thing to avoid, but some people might not avoid it, such as a strategy report or data on your customers or an acquisition list, there's no way of really knowing where your data goes, except for that it's been uploaded into the LLM or how it's going to be spit back out by another user. So always please avoid publicly accessible AI models if you're using any kind of AI for board governance work. We also recommend that if you are keen on using AI in the boardroom, obviously it has some really tremendous benefits that we'll talk about with Gavin here in just a minute. Look for tools that are certified with security, data processing, or privacy standards your organization may already use, or they may be a step above of what your organization's risk or compliance profile is. For example, SOC 2 Type 2. If you're in healthcare, you want to make sure that you're not violating any HIPAA standards. If you're doing business internationally, you want to make sure your AI tools in compliance with GDPR. All those things are really important. They're important for the rest of your business and the rest of your board governance work, but they're also important when you're thinking about using AI in the boardroom. We also recommend, there are some products out there, Govenda is one of them, using an AI capability, if you do and should use that for the boardroom, that you look for something that's a ring fence standalone model. That is a capability that does not feed up into a publicly accessible large language model. So it's contained within your organization, it's contained within your application. It does not export your data or transit your data in any way. It keeps it within your four walls of control, so to speak. And then as you're developing AI policies, AI usage policies, especially for the board as directors and then the wider organization, we highly recommend using outside experts for board training, compliance, or technology trends and insights. It's not too difficult to find AI experts these days. There are a lot of them. A lot of people are on the speaking circuits and doing a lot of consulting and analysis for external organizations. But just verify those credentials, make sure that those experts are who they say they are, and that they're accredited in any way that they can be. So that's the end of my spiel. Thank you for listening. I hope these tips and just kind of information is helpful. What I'm really excited for next is that Gavin's going to join us and show us some real-world capabilities that are available today for using AI in the boardroom. So Gavin, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Josh. And I'm going to share my screen here. So today, we're going to talk about 3 use cases for boards and board professionals, because AI has a lot of capabilities, not only to help the board members, but everyone that touches board materials along the way. So that could be your senior management who is contributing. It could be your administrative assistants who are helping prepare the board books and everything else. And there are a lot of places where AI can be injected into your process and securely help make things better for everyone. So the first and the most obvious one is really about drafting meeting minutes. And the reason that we contextualize this as drafting meeting minutes is kind of like Josh said before. You want to trust the LLM and the AI to do a certain amount of the work, but ultimately your minutes are your minutes. They are your official record, and everyone does minutes a little bit differently. And obviously everyone thinks that they do them right, but as someone who has seen a lot of meeting minutes from a lot of different companies, everyone does do them quite differently. And minutes take a lot of time from your board professionals. And so when you start to use AI to do it, you start to kind of de-risk having any one person necessarily in charge. You start to have those people be able to do them faster and better. You avoid a lot of the back and forth between whoever is kind of helping coach the minutes format with those administrative professionals. So let's say I'm drafting the minutes and Josh is the chair of the committee. A lot of times we have a lot of back and forth. Today, a lot of admin professionals, none of yours, but some that I've heard of, have a tendency to do a lot of things in memory and they have their handwritten notes. And what we have heard is that a lot of the time that is spent is the back and forth between, okay, on item 3, remember when we talked about XYZ? And AI can really help make sure that nothing gets missed along the way and improve that accuracy. And ultimately, that leads to increased job satisfaction from the people who are working on minutes. We all know how hard it is to find really excellent people who can interact with your board level materials. And once you find one, it's really important to keep them on your staff. So while AI itself can do a lot of things, one of the really kind of hidden benefits is that it can make the people who work with you and work with your boards enjoy life a little bit more when it comes to the relatively tedious task of dealing with minutes. So let's take a quick demonstration of how Govenda handles drafting meeting minutes. So you're looking at our live software right now. And what has happened here is this is a meeting in the past for, in this case, we have a city council. And the AI has transcribed the video. So that video can either be uploaded to the system if you have a recording, or in a lot of cases, our customers are actually inviting Gabby, who is Govenda's AI assistant, to join the meeting and record that securely to Govenda's servers. So that way, as Josh pointed out, you don't have things escaping your board portal. Everything is right where it needs to be. It's HIPAA compliant, SOC 2, all the acronyms that you know and love that relate to security, and it stays here. It doesn't live on Zoom servers temporarily or anything like that. So we have a recording of the, in this case, 2-hour and 16 long meeting that I can then scroll through. I can look at the transcript. I can jump to time codes if I'm not quite sure exactly what happened, or maybe I scribbled over my notes and I'm not sure exactly what was said, so I need to correct my minutes. I can jump to any point in time in the meeting and review my notes and go from there. Once you are satisfied that everything is where it needs to be, the AI can also create a draft of the minutes for you. So by combining some of the information that is contained in the agenda, comparing that to what was actually discussed, you can see that we have an introduction and welcome, some update on key assumptions for the annual plan, and all of this ties back to the transcripts from the recording. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. You're like, these minutes are very, very long. This is not how we do minutes. What we have discovered at Govenda is that it is better for the AI to have more information and allow the professionals who are used to doing this for a living, edit them down, make them shorter, make them nice and tight, versus the AI being too pithy and then having to have a human go, oh, okay, let me go back and let me look at the meeting again. Okay, yeah, that's what we said, and then kind of having to beef it up. So that's why if you look at the minutes that we have here, it is a little bit longer than you might have in a typical item, but you can see that the AI is also picking up key action items and who those action items are assigned to across the meeting. So again, it makes it really easy to make sure that you have as much coverage as possible for your professionals who are helping you draft the minutes and get them in there and finalized, and that you have a nice, accurate record of your meeting when you're done. Another wonderful use of AI is when it comes to dealing with board materials. Everyone is in this call has seen these 100, 200-page board books, especially at certain times of year. You have very long documents that you might need to review, or maybe you have read them and it's coming up time for the board meeting. You need to make a quick question to refresh your memory to prepare. There's lots of reasons where AI can step in and help you refresh your memory and understand your board materials better. So let's take a quick look at this GAP ESG report. So one scenario here is that As a board member, one of the things that I wanted to make sure, because this is my area of expertise, is that GAP has a sourcing plan for Central America. And I have this 78-page ESG report. I was very specific in my direction to management that I wanted to understand what is the sourcing plan for Central America. You know, the meeting's coming up. I'm about to hop on a plane. I just want to find out, is that information in here anywhere? So in this case, I'm going to use the ask function. And in this scenario, the Ask Gabby actually has an existing set of questions that it has determined that might be interesting for you to know. None of those are actually my question. I want to know, does GAP have a sourcing plan for Central America? I was very clear with management that I want this in here, and I want to check that it is actually exists. So Gabby is reading this 78-page document, and it's going to generate an answer for me here shortly. And so you can see that, yes, based on the provided content, and you can read the rest of the answer for yourself. There's a couple of key things here on the screen that I want to point out that Josh actually highlighted earlier. One is that the Govenda AI is boxed into a single installation. We're not sharing data across the internet. This is an older ESG report from GAP. So Gabby is not going out and looking at the current information or any publicly available websites. And it's also not sharing any of the information in this report or my questions outside of my board portal. Also, you can see at the bottom here that we are very clear that Gabby uses generative AI. So we're not saying this is fact, but this is just, okay, this is in here. I can go back and look at the details a little bit later, but I can see that it does exist. Another really good use case is, given that it is 2024, sometimes you need to look through your board materials and find out if there are any hot button issues that might come up. So given that it is an election year, I'm looking at my political engagement policy, and I want to find out if this company has contributed to any presidential campaigns, because I have opinions on that, whether we should, we shouldn't be, which one, etc. So I'm just going to ask if that has happened. And based on the information provided, GAP is not contributing to any presidential campaigns. That can either make me feel better or worse or inform my next decisions about how to interact with the board and with senior management. But at least I have a good understanding based on these policies, what has happened. And another really good use case for this type of generative AI is when it comes to onboarding new members. If you're a new board member, whether even that's just on a committee or a subcommittee, there can be a lot of information that you need to ingest quickly. And AI can help you get up to speed a little bit faster until you have time to review all of the documents in all of the detail. And one really important thing when you're choosing an AI vendor or someone to do this is making sure that the AI is also not hallucinating. And when we say hallucinating, what I mean is that the AI isn't going to really make up things out of thin air that don't exist in the document. So that is an inherent risk with generative AI. It is creating content that is not explicitly in the documents, but you want to be careful. So in this case, I'm going to take a look at these articles of incorporation, and I'm going to ask a very specific question that says, what is the price per share of a stock option? Because as a new member of the board, that's pretty important to me. So if I search for that, Gabby is going to be very clear that I could not answer the question from that context, right? That information is actually not in here. But if I ask a slightly different question, you'll see how important it is that Gabby not start making things up. So if I ask a better question, which is how are the stock option prices determined, I can see that that information is in here, right? So it's, you know, how it's in the articles of incorporation. It's not in here specifically, but Gabby isn't just making things up and saying, oh, today the price is X. That would be very bad. And you want to make sure that any of your AI providers are not going overboard and trying to kind of provide information that doesn't exist in your documents within your board portal, to make sure that everything is nice and secure. And finally, the third one is making sure that you're compliant with your own rules, right? This is less of a generative AI standpoint, but is using LLMs to help you make sure that you are following your own rules for your committees, your board, your subcommittees, and everything like that. So what Govenda does is Govenda can ingest your committee charter. So you can see for our audit committee, the AI is letting me know that I do have a charter, and then it is inferring based on the information in the charter whether that my board portal has the appropriate number of required meetings or not, whether I have all of the roles filled according to my board portal for the audit committee, and if all of my members of the audit committee have completed their onboarding or not. So the AI in this case is not generating onboarding. It is not creating anything new. It is helping me configure all these things in my system and then also helping make sure that I'm compliant. So you can see that in this case, the AI has noticed that while I do have a charter for the board of directors, there are not currently enough meetings scheduled. So I can see here 0 of 4 meetings. Relative to the board charter, I need 4 meetings in 2024. In the system right now, there are only 0 scheduled. So we need to do some work there. And then it's not quite sure if all the roles are filled. So I could go in deeper into the system, pull that information and make corrections as I need to make sure that I'm just compliant with the rules in my own charter. And systems like Govenda, you can have as many charters for as many committees as you like to make sure that for larger organizations, it becomes a lot easier to make sure that all of your committees and your subcommittees are following the rules with just a quick check through the system. There's a second screenshot just in case the internet wasn't cooperating. And now we'll toss it back to Josh for questions.
Great. Yeah. Gavin, this is always like super interesting, and my mind always starts racing when I think about all the ways that technology can enable boards and boards of directors to better do their work, right? A couple of use cases just based on what you showed us, driving new member onboarding. So if you're unfamiliar with the board's previous meetings, you could go back to the minutes, you could go back to the documents in the board pack there and quickly summarize or look through those things using AI. So you're not having to read the entire board pack from 2 years ago just to get up to speed on those decisions that were made. I like the idea as well as, we talk about the duty of care and the duty of loyalty that you have to a business and your role as a director. You're certainly, primarily responsible for reviewing those materials yourself, as the warning or the little subtext there indicates. But being able to re-review documents, did I miss anything? I think I saw this on page 47 that it mentioned a new ESG policy. You could certainly use AI to use that as well. And then I like the idea too of the meeting minutes, especially if you're maybe a smaller board that doesn't have its own corporate secretary. Typically either a board member or board director is responsible for, or your board administrator is responsible for taking those meeting minutes. But if it was a board director or board member taking the minutes and enabled with an AI tool, they can actually have more time for engagement and collaboration rather than have to look down every 5 minutes to make sure that they're transcribing everything correctly. We do have a couple of questions from the audience here. Before we get to those, I'm going to ask our webinar operator, Madeline, to put up a very quick poll. I actually omitted this from our housekeeping, but it's a quick 30-second poll. It just tells us how we're doing, so we can better serve you as we continue with these webinars. And then if you're interested in learning more about the products or the capabilities that Gavin mentioned. This question is from Christine. Gavin, I think this is for you. Is the AI tool built into Govenda? They're concerned about confidentiality, and I'm assuming can I turn this on or off? Is this something I can opt into or opt out of? Can you talk a little bit about the decision making there?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the question, Christine. The nice thing about the AI that Govenda is using, it is all built into the Azure environment. So nothing ever escapes your board portal. So we are sending everything kind of lives self-contained into yours. So you don't have to worry about confidentiality of that information. And also one thing that is sort of implied in this question that I neglected to mention earlier specifically, so thanks again, Christine, is that none of the information either that you send to Govenda's AI or that is in your documents is used to do any sort of training or enhancement of the LLM, whether it be on a personalized level or anything else. So as soon as you ask that question, or you provide that document, it is immediately scrubbed from the AI, and it's not using any of that information to enhance you or anybody else's information.
And I would assume that would go for the prompts as well. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. Another question from Aladdin. Does the data from board meetings get deleted after a certain amount of time on a schedule, or would they be able to delete when necessary? You and I talked about this in the pre-meeting, Gavin. I think you have a pretty good answer for that, right?
Yeah, fortunately, the answer is both. So we have the ability for you to configure kind of a backstop for yourself. So you can say after 30 days, I want to make sure that our transcripts and our videos are deleted permanently, or 60 or 90 or whatever schedule works for you. But if you happen to be working ahead of schedule and you need those deleted right away, you can go in and delete those recordings immediately, and they are permanently purged, much to the chagrin of people who delete and they're like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. They actually do get permanently deleted. Sometimes I think people are testing us. Yeah, we can't get it back. I'm sorry. It's gone forever. So yeah, you can do that in both ways, either on a scheduled basis as a backstop, or automatically. Now, in the case of some of our nonprofits who are doing more localized things, they actually want them permanently stored there, and you have that control as well.
As someone who's worked in product, both product ownership and product marketing, I'm assuming that there's a "Are you sure?" prompt before it gets deleted immediately.
There is an "Are you sure?" prompt. Yep.
Okay. So at least it's verifying. Another great question from Wanda, and this is really interesting. Can Gabby go beyond the enclosed board portal for special requests? For instance, could it go out and find information on your competing on competitive marketplace? Say you're evaluating a set of products for your boardroom or elsewhere. Can it go out and find that information if you prompt it correctly?
That is a really good question. So at Govenda, we believe that kind of our basic position is that you're in control of what is in your board portal at all times, and we don't want to make the assumption that you want anything in there that you didn't put there specifically. So for that question specifically, no, it cannot, is expressly prohibited from doing that. So you would have to bring that in especially to do that. But given that it is a board focused flavor of this AI, I'm not sure that product positioning is really the best use for that either. But no, the core point here is Gabby is not going outside for any reason for any information.
So it's all within the four walls, and whatever data and content is existing within those four walls, that's the only thing it's referencing. It's not going to give you general knowledge or trivia answers or anything like that, right?
Yep. I've had some fun trying to break Gabby with for some very silly requests that fortunately it was denied. So Josh likes to say four walls. I like to think of it as four walls, a ceiling, and a floor.
Oh, thank you. Even better.
And there's no way. Gabby has no way out.
Or Gabby. Great. Well, Gavin, I think that covers all our questions. I'm not a fan of staying beyond my welcome time, so I guess we can wrap this up early. Audience members, thank you for joining us. One other special thing that I wanted to mention, if you liked, excuse me, I'm just trying to find my link here. If you appreciated Gavin's walkthrough of the capabilities of Govenda and especially Gabby AI, there's obviously a whole other set of capabilities and features that are great for board governance. I just put the link in the chat, but August 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll have a live group demo. If you want to explore Govenda or Gabby or anything else more, we're certainly available to do that. But with that, Gavin, thank you for joining. Oh, wait, there's one more QA. Oh, no, I already answered it. Sorry. With that, I'll conclude the webinar. Gavin, thank you for joining us, and everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.